going to be bringing you an NBA draft recap. We're going to be recapping picks 1 through 11 for Project Spurs. So, Ben, we know that the San Antonio Spurs did pick Devin Vassell. Let's just get that one out of the way because that's the one that Spurs fans want to hear about first. We did have Tyrese Halliburton, which I know our good friend Wesley was not a fan of. And you had actually stated that you wish that the Spurs would have picked somebody else. Who was that, Ben?
Well, I liked Halliburton at 11 since he was available. And Sadiq Bey also was there. I liked him too, but Vassell's upside, I think, was just too much to let go to the next pick. So the Spurs went with it.
Yeah, that they did. You know, they had Aaron Naismith as well that was available. And let me check something real quick. Let's go ahead and look at some of the updates. You said the Boston Celtics actually picked somebody.
They picked Aaron Neesmith, who I also liked, certified shooter,
Yeah, there you go. So,
sniper, league of shooters.
yeah. So the Boston Celtics got better as far as their perimeter shooting. The San
Well,
Antonio Spurs got Devin Vassell.
they didn't have a choice. They have so many picks. They had to choose somebody who would have made him better, right?
Yeah, he's a small forward, you know. So I mean, I don't. He's 6'7", 195 pounds out of Florida State. He was a sophomore. You know, he has the possibility to be a wing. You know, which is something that the Spurs are sorely missing right now. Um, he has shot making ability. You know, he's a good defender. But other than that, you know, there's still some intangibles that he's going to have to work on as far as the other aspects of his game to get ready for this next level. I expect him as
Intangibles, for that matter.
yeah, I expect him as much as you do to spend some heavy minutes developing, should I say, over in the Austin Spurs in the G League.
Yeah.
We're probably not going to see him play very much, if not sparing minutes, you know, throughout the season. Usually the Spurs like to play these guys on away games when the games really don't mean much, and they sit somebody out because they're old.
Yes.
So they give the kid a couple minutes to see what he's got.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. There should be opportunities for that, especially if DeMar DeRozan sits some games. You have the other young guys playing, and maybe you give Vassell a shot to get some minutes there. Could be interesting.
Yeah, Christopher Summers saying way too many guards. He's not wrong, Ben. He's not wrong. We are a
It's hard
very
to argue.
guard heavy team, and that's the thing. It's like there's not going to be enough minutes to go around for everybody. So you know you're going to have these issues again when it comes to that the guard. You know, the kind of small forward positioning out there with already established players that we have on the roster. But moving back, let's go ahead and circle back to pick number one. The number one pick of the NBA draft was going to be Anthony Edwards. He was picked number one by the Minnesota Timberwolves. What can you tell us about this young man?
Anthony Edwards, another guy, supreme athleticism. Everybody really likes him. He is a shooter. He can go out and get his own shot. Uh, there was an issue with something he said in the last couple of days. He was basically saying, "Yeah, if I had the opportunity to go play in the NFL, I'd rather go play." Well, I don't know if he didn't say he'd rather go play in the NFL, but he said, if I have the opportunity, I would have gone and played in the NFL. Which, for a lot of people, you're kind of thinking, do I want a kid who's not fully invested in the game of basketball? That doesn't sound ideal to me, but uh, just too good of a shooter, too good of a player to pass up, and still going to be less of a head case than some other guys that they could have drafted.
Yeah, Anthony Edwards, he's an explosive offensive player. I mean, he shows the ability to light up the scoreboard. You know, he has a combination of strength, athleticism, shooting ability. There's a lot of good things about this young guy, young player. So Timberwolves, let's just face it, they're not very good. They're worse than the Spurs as far as their talent pool goes, but not by much. You know, they're not far behind us.
No, they are really not.
So that's the scary part is that if the Spurs don't do anything to get better, these other teams who are behind us can go ahead and leapfrog us. Doesn't mean that they're better in terms of veteran leadership. That's the thing that a lot of these young teams have is that they have a lot of explosive, athletic young players, but they lack the veteran leadership. And that is where the Spurs excel, where their athleticism and the wealth of talent that they have, even though they might be the 12th best team currently, in the Western Conference, they can actually still make a viable case for trying to get into the playoffs and get that 8 seed because of their veteran leadership. But moving into number 2 pick, we have the Warriors who drafted James Wiseman. I don't think this was really a surprise. This
No,
is what something that everybody knew. So, what can you
yeah,
tell us about
everybody
James
knew
Wiseman?
exactly. Everybody knew he was if he wasn't going one, he was going two. The thought was the Warriors might move that pick, or they might still take Wiseman and then move him. But things became a little less clear with the Klay Thompson injury that we heard news about earlier in the day. So it remains to be seen what they're really thinking right now. And there are definitely teams out there who would love to get up and get Wiseman, have the chance to trade for him and have him on their team. So that is still a possibility. But a rim running big, he's 7'1", he's almost 250. He is a guy that can go out. He can be a defender for you immediately and make a difference on that end of the court. He has the potential to go out and shoot it a little bit, but that's part of his game that he definitely has to work on.
Yeah, well, he's one of the probably the most physically gifted center in this draft. He's got the gifts as far as his size
And he has
goes.
been compared to another lefty we're familiar with, David Robinson, one because of the lefty, and he's so athletic.
Yeah. So you can draw comparisons there, but the verdict's still out since this year's draft class is notoriously weak. Next year's draft class, I'm hopeful the Spurs will return back to the NBA draft and possibly get another 1 through 10 or 11th pick. Maybe they'll move up. And it's not like they're going to try to tank by any means, but I mean, the writing's on the wall. If they're going to roll with the same roster, expect the same results,
Absolutely. I mean, the Warriors should expect much different results considering who's actually going to be able to play for them this season.
Christopher Summers says he can't hear anything. Well, I mean, we are live right now, so I'm showing that we have good tack all around. So it might be something else going on with him. So
Unmute it.
yeah, Ben says unmute your mic or unmute your phone. Patrick Williams at number 4, one of the other listeners or viewers is telling us right now. So we're going to go ahead and move down to your favorite topic of discussion here, and then that would be the Charlotte Hornets drafting one LaMelo Ball.
You know how I feel about LaMelo Ball. I think it's going to be terrible, but you know what? LeVar gets his one-on-one with Michael Jordan, and we get to see who's really a decent player. So it's going to be great. It's going to be great. Actually, they should televise that event. They'd probably get some great viewer action there.
Yeah, I did a quick run through of the stream, and I can hear us just fine. So we're good on our end. There's something else going on with our friend over here, Christopher Summers. He needs to turn up the volume. That's going to be interesting, though. Can LaMelo Ball actually be able to be productive over there with the Charlotte Hornets with his dad always sniffing around? He's going to probably get into some heated discussions, I would assume, with one Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan don't play that game.
No, he does not, sir. and that's when he took it personally.
Oh yeah. Did you see his reaction too when LaMelo got picked? LeVar Ball was just like,
yeah, I'm sure LeVar Ball was upset that he didn't get drafted number 1 overall. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he was upset. He was legit upset. He was sitting on the sofa, disgusted, and his son was trying to give him a hug, and he's just like a fake halfway hug, and he's like, whatever. I'm like, dude.
You should have been number 1. You needed to be better than Lonzo. Can't believe you.
But he should be really happy of what he's accomplished. I mean, he has 2 out of 3 of his sons that have been picked. They've been high picks in the NBA draft. And this is something that doesn't usually happen. So that's a big accomplishment in its own right. And the dude's legit upset that LaMelo didn't get picked first. I mean, that's just insane to me.
There might have also been a bet going on that Lonzo would end up being the lower pick of the 2 brothers.
Possibly. I mean, they have LiAngelo Ball, but I mean, let's face it.
Come on. Come on, Joe.
That kid ain't gonna be in the draft anytime soon. Okay, so let's go ahead and go down the line. Unfortunately, to the dismay of many Spurs fans out here,
to the
They
dismay of many Chicago Bulls fans.
Yeah, that too. The Chicago Bulls winded up picking Patrick Williams. He went and really moved up the draft ladder because a lot of mock drafts before this had him picked going even lower than 11. I believe at one point he was at the 12 or 13th, hovering
Yeah,
around 12 or 13th. Then all of a sudden, when the Detroit Pistons started showing interest in him, his draft stock rose, and all of a
last couple
sudden,
of weeks he just started jumping, and
boom,
I think that was our first official reach of the draft.
Patrick Williams at number 4 by the Chicago Bulls. I mean, I told you how I felt about Patrick Williams. Well, I wasn't sold on him. I had, still I was like, he could pan out to be a decent enough player, but I just wasn't sold on him. I kind of like Sadiq Bey a little bit more. I know a lot of fans were giving me a lot of flack for that, but it was just call it a gut feeling. I just felt like Sadiq Bey would have been a better fit for the San Antonio Spurs, more so than Patrick Williams. But I guess we'll never know because we didn't get either one of them. We got Devin Vassell. So for better or for worse, it is what it is on that end. We wish the Chicago Bulls the best in their rebuilding phase because let's face it, they're probably going to be rebuilding for quite some time. And it
Yeah, they're going to need all
continues.
the luck they can handle.
Yeah, and it's continuing ever since the Michael Jordan era finished. They have never, it just seems like they've never left the rebuilding phase. It still continues.
Yeah, I mean, they had great years with Derrick Rose, but they couldn't quite get to the level they were hoping.
Yeah. They had some promise, they had Rose, they had Joakim Noah, they had a decent enough team, but it just seems like they could never get past the hurdles, when it came to playoff contention. So it is what it is. Their window of opportunity closed. But
Yep.
Michael DeLeon's in here. He says, "What's up, fellas?" And one of our friends here watching us on Periscope saying, "Do you think there's a possibility for trade?" There's always a possibility for trade, but it gets tougher as soon as the draft is over. Now you just got to see what you can get, so to speak, because you don't really have those picks that you can throw at any teams that are attractive now because the draft is already passed. So you're stuck with who you're stuck with, and if a team finds value in that and they're willing to trade, then so be it. But it has to make sense for both parties.
Absolutely.
So let's go ahead and go down to number 6. Oh, number 5. I'm sorry, I almost missed the Cleveland Cavaliers, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. At number
I think
five,
people in Cleveland might even agree with you.
at number 5, the Cleveland Cavaliers, they selected Isaac Akuro. Isaac Akuro. His name was thrown out there a lot. Spurs fans even, kind of mentioned him a little bit. We wasn't like a very popular player, but they had an opinion about him either way. Small forward, 6'6", 225 pounds, out of Auburn. He's a freshman at Auburn. He's a good athlete, on the wing. He exceeded expectations as a freshman at Auburn. I'm sure that you can emphasize that a little bit more. What can you tell us about this young man?
He's an excellent athlete. He is a supreme, one of the better athletes in this draft class. Another guy who really has to work on his shooting, but he's a guy who can get out in transition, really help you. And he already has an NBA body. He'll have to put on 15 more pounds maybe, but he can already bang with some of the big boys. And he can guard 2 or 3 positions for you, and he will be your best perimeter defender.
Yeah, there's no doubt that he couldn't have been a really good defender on that perimeter. He's a powerful athlete on the wing, and he definitely exceeded his expectation as a freshman over in Auburn. Um, they kind of solidify him as a high level NBA prospect, which he was sure enough because he went high in this year's draft. Surprisingly enough, though, athletes of this caliber, they would have gone not in the top 5 in the typical draft. It's just showing you that this year's draft, as far as the quality of athlete, is kind of weak. And another thing too that was kind of an enigma in this year's draft is because we didn't have the tourney. We didn't get to see the March Madness tourney, which you're a big fan of as well as I am. You didn't really get to see a lot of these young kids out there. And when it comes to making a best estimate or guesstimation in this year's draft, I think all these teams are taking chances on these young players, because you didn't really get to see the sample size of what was actually going to occur or what they were capable of doing when they can actually boost your draft stock if you have a breakout game, or games in the tourney. Oh, we lost Ben.
Prospects get to boost their draft stock, or they fall maybe a few spots because they had one or two bad games in the tournament. And the flip of that coin is some guys have an incredible tournament run, and that really boosts their stock before the draft comes around in the couple months afterwards. But of course, with time to sit on season footage and potential workout footage, there was a little bit of stagnation this year, and I think scouting and being able to really evaluate players.
Yeah, there were a lot of scouting reports out there, and I think that's what a lot of these teams were having to rely on: scouting reports, like you said, video footage, looking at tape, and seeing what these young players were capable of. So it was a different draft, to say the least, and a virtual one at that.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's go ahead and move on from the Isaac Akuro talk, and let's go ahead and talk about the Atlanta Hawks now. They're drafting Spurs fan favorite here that they were hopeful would fall in the draft with the latest development of him fracturing his toe, Okongwu. We got word that he fractured his toe, and we were hopeful that his draft stock would drop all the way down to 11. I kept my fingers crossed because I said if they get Okongwu, I would actually almost shed tears of joy if they got this young man. It was just not meant to be.
Unfortunately, they said 1 to 3 weeks rather than 1 to 3 months. That might have done it for him.
Yeah.
But no, I'm glad it wasn't very long. He'll be fine. He'll be able to play for the Hawks right away if he can find some minutes there. But it's going to be difficult with John Collins and Clint Capella already there, unless of course one of those guys gets moved. Most likely Clint Capella. But he is. I've talked about him at length with you, Joe, and with a couple other people, and he was one of my favorite players in this draft. He's 6'9", he's 245, he's got a great wingspan, really bouncy athlete, runs like a gazelle, gets up and down the court, can be a defensive stopper for you and a rim protector for you immediately, and he has pride in his offensive game as well.
Yeah, you can't forget his combination of his quickness and his leaping ability. I mean, like you said, those springy legs, he can just get up there and he can run with the best of them. And at 6'9", so that's something that you definitely want in today's big men, out there, because the big man position has evolved. It's no longer the LaMarcus Aldridge type player. You need somebody who can actually run the court and has the athleticism. So you have this young man here who fits the bill on both ends. That's why I was so hopeful that we could get him in. We could get him, as a steal for the San Antonio Spurs. It just was not meant to be. So we're gonna go ahead and move on here to number 7 now. The Detroit Pistons drafted Killian Haynes.
Another guy that Spurs fans were hoping would drop. I'm glad he didn't. 6'5", he's under 200 pounds. Of course, now that we have hindsight and the Spurs have already made their pick, at 7, you could still say, well, the Spurs don't need to pick another guard, especially a big point guard. They don't really need that. So it's fine. It worked out. There's really nothing to say. And I think Detroit is in very much of a rebuild mode. So I think that was a good pick for them. And I hope they're not, I hope there are some Detroit fans who are not upset with that pick.
Yeah, somebody wanted to know who the Oklahoma City Thunder picked. And I'm like, I don't see them yet. They haven't been on the board yet.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out here shortly. They haven't picked. They're at 25, so we're barely, I believe, at 19. I think Brooklyn's on the clock right now as we're currently doing this live stream. So you still got a couple picks. There's still a couple picks ahead of that. So number 25, you'll find out who OKC picks. And Michael DeLeon said,
I am seeing that Detroit is targeting Sadiq Bey at 19. Must be nice.
He fell that much.
He really did.
Wow. That's kind of unexpected. I mean, I knew he was going to be a late first rounder, that was a possibility, but I didn't expect him to be available at 19. That's surprising to me.
Yeah, that's a great steal right there, if you ask me.
Definitely. That would have been good if he. What if he's still available at 41?
You're not falling that. Come on now.
Wow. Wouldn't that be something, right?
Yeah, something would be one word to use.
I doubt it though, man, but I can wish. I can wish. So we just finished saying that the Detroit Pistons selected Killian Haynes. Um, I'm trying to
Number
see.
8, the New
Yeah,
York
number
Knicks, the
eight.
dreaded pick.
Yeah, just a point guard, guy like you were already saying, 6'5", 192 pounds. To me, he just seems like he seems like he can pan out as far as a point guard. But again, all these guys, you're gonna have to work with them because with the good, you also get the bad. And that's the thing is, are they coachable? How are they going to respond to the coaching staff? And how are they going to develop? Because when it comes to the next level, it's going to be quite a change for them. Because even though you might have been a badass in college, when you come to the next level and you're playing against this difference in elite talent,
Other grown men.
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
yeah, you get humbled real quick. So we're gonna go ahead and go to number 8, and unfortunately, too much of the chagrin of our friend Wesley Perkins here. Obi Toppin has been delegated to basketball hell as the New York Knicks
Much to my
select him.
chagrin.
Yep,
Never mind, Wesley. Get out of here, Wes. Keep your Texas Tech basketball, sir.
Obi
But
Toppin, poor Obi, he got delegated to the New York Knicks. Six
he
foot
was
nine, 220 pounds, power forward. Would have looked good in the silver and black band. I'm not gonna
he
lie.
would he would have looked great if only he could have lasted 4 more picks or 3 more picks. Math, not my forte.
Spurs could have moved up in the draft.
Could have. Apparently, they didn't see anything they liked, but I'm sure we'll hear more about that in the days to come. And who knows? They may still make moves after this draft. But
They could.
Obi Toppin, my favorite player in college basketball last year, the best player in college basketball last year. Great story, great player. There's not a whole lot of bad things you can say about him, but the Knicks fans, it's going to be hard to boo that pick if you're a Knicks fan.
Yeah, I think Obi Toppin would have been a good fit here with the San Antonio Spurs. So I feel for you, Wesley. I know he's watching right now, and he's still chanting. Instead of Obi, he's saying Nobi, 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 because it did not happen. I think that was going to sting Wesley for a little bit here. So we're going to go ahead and move on. After Obi Toppin, we have the Wizards at number 9, and they picked another Spurs fan favorite, the Spurs faithful, where even started a prayer circle before I came out here and started watching because they were hoping they would pick the Spurs would select Denny. Unfortunately, Denny did not stay, uh, did not fall, should I say, to number 11. The Wizards picked him at number 9. Oh, well, I mean, are you surprised by this? I thought he was going to go sooner. I had some mock drafts having him, go up as far as 5 or 6.
Not terribly surprised. I think this was really his range the entire pre-draft process, and there was no way he was getting past Phoenix if he had fallen that far. But I think this is a good pairing for Washington. They need a guy like that. He can play a bit of point forward for you. He can take the pressure off Bradley Beal and John Wall if he ever gets healthy to bring the ball up, initiate an offense, and you can get Brad Beal more of his off ball looks that he likes to get, and even John Wall to an extent. Of course, John Wall likes the ball in his hands, so I'm sure he'll stay mostly at point guard, and then Denny gets to play at small forward, maybe power forward at the in the right lineup. But he's a guy who has to learn how to shoot as well. That's going to be key for his development, and that's going to decide if he can stay in this league.
Yeah, one of the little known facts here is that his father, Zufer Avija, played for Yugoslavia in the 1982 FIBA World Championship. So he comes from a good stock.
That is
And
good stuff.
yeah,
Nice point.
and he was saying, when they were talking to him after he was selected, that he's kind of, I guess he's going to be an ambassador for Israeli players now because he's going to. I think right now he is the highest picked Israeli player uh, in the NBA draft period. So that's a good thing for him to represent his country. So you have that there. He's versatile. You know, he's a versatile forward, easily one of the better players in the EuroLeague. But coming over here, it's going to be a kind of hard for him to actually learn the system. It's going to be quite a big difference, you know, and not only in the rules of the game itself and how it's played, but also the plethora of talent that's out there. And I think that can be a scary thing, as we just finished saying, for some of these players, especially one that's coming from overseas to the NBA.
You're not wrong, Joe.
So we have number 10, the Phoenix Suns. Oh, Phoenix. They made a blockbuster trade before the draft, and they got CP3, a good floor general, to play alongside Devin Booker and their great young core that they have. And now they're gonna go ahead and add Jalen Smith to that. What can you tell us about Jalen Smith?
I liked him a lot. As a closet Maryland guy, he improved his game drastically this season, which was awesome for him. I also happen to think this was the second reach of the draft. I don't think he was a top 10 player in this draft. I'm happy for him, don't get me wrong, but I think that was a guy you could have had at 20. So I'm not a big fan of that pick, but you know what? They swung hard on Cameron Johnson last year at 11, and it worked out for him. So maybe Phoenix knows something we don't, and maybe they hit on another guy as well. So if they do, great. And I think he would pair excellently with Ayton and a lot of those guys who would be starting, Chris Paul and Devin Booker with DeAndre Ayton, Jalen Smith, and whoever they want to trot out there at small forward, maybe McCall Bridges. But they'll be a nice team, and I think Jalen Smith will get some early minutes this year.
Yeah, Jason Salinas says take away Drew's 100%. Laugh out loud. So let's go ahead and move forward now, so we can talk a little bit more now about the Spurs and their selection here. As we went ahead and did talk about it briefly before we started going through the 1 through 11 picks. San Antonio Spurs again select Devin Vassell. Devin Vassell, 6'7", 195 pounds, coming from Florida State. He was a sophomore, and he's a small forward. So we had a lot of comments already about some of these Spurs fans saying that we're already guard heavy. So you have that. This was not a very sexy pick. Let's just say it like that.
It was not, and some people have pointed out it's kind of a long play pick, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as your long play works out. And he's 6'7", he's 195. At least that was how he was listed. He might have gained some weight, and I'm sure he will once he gets to San Antonio. But this is a guy who can help you defensively. He can lock down on the perimeter, has great instincts, high basketball IQ, was a good shooter in the limited amount of shots he had, and another Leonard Hamilton coached guy who is going to be just fine at the NBA level. Leonard Hamilton has been a very good coach, and I think it's finally being recognized by scouts and people in NBA drafting circles, because he's had some guys drafted the last few years who have been really good players, and I think Devin Vassell could be another guy in that line. And it wasn't as much of a reach as his buddy Patrick Williams, so you have that going for you.
Yeah, do you think Vassell was more a product of the Spurs picking him at number 11 because the Spurs were picking the best available player? Because it didn't seem like they were interested in getting a big man at that 11th pick, which is going to fill a need for the team.
Right.
To me, it just seems like they picked the best available player and didn't go with the team need.
I'm not sure that's entirely accurate, because a lot of people had Tyrese Halliburton as a better available player at that pick. So I think they saw something in him that they really liked. He was a bigger guard. He can play small forward for you. Tyrese Halliburton really can't do that. And both of them have kind of funky shots, so you're going to have to work on it regardless of who you draft there between those two. And I think they just felt more comfortable with Vassell. And from what I understand, I think the Spurs really like Leonard Hamilton as a coach, and I think they like his system because he's very much a team-first guy. I mean, and I've said this before, this is a coach who runs 10 guys deep on his bench every single season and consistently. So these guys understand, minutes are not guaranteed. You got to earn minutes, and you got to go out and you got to play your role and play your part on the court in order to get those minutes.
Yeah, so there you have it, Spurs fans. San Antonio Spurs do not make the sexy pick and they get Devin Vassell. I can't wait to go on Twitter because I know that Spurs Twitter is about to riot and burn the whole damn thing down right now. So that's going to be fun. I'm going to join in the fun on that as well, Ben. So
Why not?
this is where we're going to leave you for our small, short broadcast. We just want to kind of skim through picks number 1 through 11. Me and Ben will be doing a pre-recorded version of this NBA recap where we're going to go a little bit more in depth on every single player, going probably a little bit further than 1 through 11. And we're going to have some information pulling up here on the screen as well as we talk about said players and the teams that picked them. So I'm sure you're going to have something in the works for tomorrow morning for Project Spurs, correct, Ben?
Oh yeah, I've got a few ideas of what I want to write, so I'll have something this coming. That I may take a while and really think on it, let myself simmer down a little bit, really crock pot these ideas, if you will, and I'll definitely have something this weekend though.
Yeah, so we'll have more information for you guys come tomorrow. We're gonna go ahead and pre-record this one so we can go ahead and give you the best quality, and also go ahead and release that. It's probably gonna be going up on the Project Spurs website, just as this live stream is gonna be being put up. Possibly either tonight or tomorrow, depends on what Michael wants to do. But Ben, before we go ahead and end the live stream, where can they follow you on social media?
As always, you can find me on Twitter at @the_Boomstein. And you know me, I love talking college basketball, NBA draft, Spurs, whatever you want. Other nerd Marvel things, it's where I live. Hit me up there.
And there you go. Make sure you do follow Ben. He's very knowledgeable. He is probably on the top of my list of people to follow when it comes to prospects. So you can't go wrong by following Ben. He's never going to lead you astray and give you, let's say, non-factual information.
I avoid non-facts as much as possible.
So there you go. For better or for worse, he's going to let you know how it is, whether you like it or not. He's going to give you the facts. So make sure you go and follow Ben. And you can also follow me at Two Shots Podcast. It's all spelled out, TWOSHOTS Podcast. And that's about all the time we have for tonight. We appreciate everybody who tuned in and took some time to comment and watch this broadcast. We greatly appreciate the support. So for Benjamin Bornstein, I'm Joe Garcia. Thank you guys for watching this NBA recap. So that's about all the time we have for tonight. So spread the love, stop the hate, be kind to one another. We're out. Peace.